What's up, Yellow Jacket Nation, and welcome to the new, revamped, reimagined, and rebooted official podcast for Black Hills State University Athletics, Jacket Chats. I am Bryce Johnson, and throughout this episode and every episode after, I will be talking to Black Hills State Athletics players, coaches, and administrators, giving you a chance to learn about them and get to know a little bit more about the people underneath the jerseys and behind the statistics. With the new podcast, there's no one we thought would be a more fitting first guest than the new Director of Athletics, Scott Larson. A new podcast, a new name, a new host, and a new AD. So without further ado, our sit down with Scott Larson on Jacket Chats. And Scott, welcome to campus. Welcome to BHSU. It's great to have you. Now, before we get into your background in athletics, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you all about? What are some of your interests? And for the lack of a better term, who is Scott Larson?
That's a good question. I guess that's something you'll have to figure out over the coming weeks, months, and hopefully years. But no, I grew up in Topeka, Kansas. Did my undergraduate degree at the University of Tulsa. From there, I went to Arizona State University as a graduate assistant, and then worked at a few different institutions along the way. Married, my wife and I have been married 21 years. We have a senior in high school and a sophomore in high school, two boys, Cade and Reed. As far as my interests go, I spend a lot of time, in the athletic departments of where I'm working. So I assume I'll be here in the Young Center, the rest of our facilities quite a bit. Other than that, playing and watching sports, I enjoy baseball on a lot of different levels. In the past, I've umpired baseball from the high school level all the way on down, and watching my kids participate in their sporting events and their activities, and then spending time with my wife and traveling with her. And as the kids get older, we're able to do a little more of that. Fortunate, my family understands that athletics is not necessarily a job, it's a lifestyle, and so they hang around, and my kids have grown up in athletics, and so it's been good.
That's fantastic, family man, through and through, and it's great that your family is so supportive of it. And you kind of mentioned it, athletics, it's a lifestyle. And off that note, kind of summarize your background. You alluded to it in collegiate athletics. Where have you been? What have you done there, etc.?
Well, I went to Arizona State because I was doing an internship in the University of Tulsa athletic department when I was in doing my undergrad, and the individual I was working for got a job at Arizona State and said, hey, why don't you come along and be my graduate assistant? And as a 21-year-old, why not move to Tempe, Arizona and spend some time out there? And so did that. Got my master's degree out there, spent 3 years out there, was a graduate assistant out there. And then my first full-time job was at the University of Wisconsin, and from there bounced around a little bit and then got married and had kids, and that kind of changes perspective and things. And so my previous stop was at Lubbock Christian University for the past 11 years. Family grew up there. It was a great experience. And I felt, when I went to Lubbock Christian, they were transitioning from NAI to Division II, I think a few years after Black Hills did. So at the time, I'd been in Division I for 15 years, and it was a bit of a ego check, I think, going from Division I to Division II. But I did want a little more work-life balance at that time, and I've absolutely fallen in love with the Division II level. To me, it's really what the collegiate athletic experience should be about. Very few are going to the next level. Student-athletes are here to get a degree, but they're using their athletic ability to help, in large part, pay for that education, and just having the experience to play at the collegiate level. And like I said, I've really fallen in love with the Division II level and the student-athletes that make up the division.
Yeah, we'll get back to kind of your experience in D2 and kind of what drew you to it. But before we get to that, what made you want to get into collegiate athletics in the first place as a profession?
When I went to college, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. At Tulsa, first semester, freshman year, they had a University 101 course. As part of that was, where's the library, here's how you study, just all the things. And they had the representatives from the different colleges and schools come in and talk about their degrees, and they offered and things like that. And Tulsa offered a sports administration major. And so I was like, man, this is cool. You get paid to watch sports for a living. Of course, little did I know, watching sports is very little of the sports administration job. It's the fun part, but it's a very small part of it. And so, yeah, ever since then, got my degree, did an internship in the Tulsa athletic department, and then just been working in college athletics ever since.
And you did allude to it, you've worked at a bunch of D1 schools in the past, various sizes, a few mid-majors, including Gardner-Webb, UTEP, Power Fives, Wisconsin, and where you got your grad degree at Arizona State. Now a couple D2s, Lubbock Christian before now, and here at BHSU. So what is it about that D2 level that specifically drew you to it originally and now remain a part of it here at Black Hills State?
Well, I think when I went to Lubbock Christian, it was twofold. We wanted to get closer to one of our families. It really didn't matter which one. Our kids were young. We were a young family at that point. And so division, I don't think necessarily played a role necessarily. Lubbock Christian was just was happenstance, really. The job was open. I didn't know much about it at the time. Applied really cold. Ended up getting the job there. Started as the compliance person there, helping them transition from NAI to Division II before ultimately moving into the AD chair. But Division II, like I said earlier, it's just, to me, it's really what college athletics is about or should be about. Yeah, granted, we don't have the resources that the Power Fives do and all those kinds of things, but they're great student athletes, great coaches, and honestly, I think some of the best coaches in the country are at the Division II and Division III level, because at Division I, it's a lot more about recruiting and who has the better players, whereas Division II and Division III, the playing field's a lot more level and is a lot more about the X's and O's and those kinds of things. And so just a lot of great, and not that there's not great individuals in Division I, but just a lot of great people at the Division II level.
Yeah, like I know for me, my undergrad was a D2 school, so it was really special for me to come back to a D2 school, coming here to Black Hills State, because you get that high level of competition, that high level of athleticism, without a lot of the egos, in my opinion. That's what drew me. So on the note of Division II and your time with Lubbock Christian, in what ways do you think your time with the Chaps prepared you for this role here in Spearfish?
Well, first of all, I got to correct you. It's Chaps it's SH. You get in trouble in Lubbock if you say Chaps and not Chaps. So, I think, it was interesting when I moved from the deputy chair to the AD chair. I'd been there 7 years at that point. So I had a lot of institutional knowledge. I knew the people, which I think was a good thing, because I didn't have to go through that learning phase like I'm doing here at Black Hills State, learning the people, learning the institution, and those kinds of things. But LCU, I think, like I said, a lot of great people, a lot of great coaches, and just their help and their support when I was learning the role. A lot of veteran coaches there, just great people. I think it wasn't necessarily the job; it was the other stuff that I think they helped prepare me for. Just how to deal with people, how to the good times, the bad times, and all of that. And so I think that's really what it is, not the job itself. I mean, the AD job itself, every Division II, I don't want to say it's the same, but it's more or less the same. But it's how you handle those things that come up, and you dealing with success, dealing with failure, and those kinds of things. I think that's from those people I really learned that.
Well, now the $1 million question. Why Black Hills State? What is it about BHSU that drew you to come to Spearfish and work for the Yellow Jackets?
Well, I always like to return that question and say, why not? But no, I think, Lubbock Christian doesn't have football. The chance to get football, to work with football again, that's a different animal. And obviously, men's and women's basketball have had a lot of success over the past number of years as well. And so I think there's room for success in the other sports as well. I know track has had some national qualifiers and things like that. But to me, success is not just one or two sports having success. It's the entire department having success. And I think that's one of the things that I was most proud of at LCU is my last year there finished the highest they ever have in the Learfield Cup. I think 70th or 71st in the Learfield Cup in their relatively short D2 history. But to me, that's the sign of a good athletic program. Not there's one or two sports, but the overall program having success.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the Learfield Cup is the cumulative kind of ranking kind of on the finishes and successes of the various different athletic programs. Now, I admittedly present all these questions as if, like, we're literally talking, like, the first hour of your first day on campus, right? But you did get here on Friday and straight into the fire in the middle of a 4 days weekend. You got to witness volleyball for a couple matches and soccer Sunday. What are your impressions of Yellow Jacket Nation so far?
The people are great. After volleyball on, I guess it was Friday night. Friday night, I had a number of supporters come up and introduce themselves and welcome me to Spearfish and all of that. Soccer crowd was great. Volleyball crowds were great. Just a lot of good people that want to see BH be successful, which is really good to see. And, I remember that from my interview when I came here, the open forums and the number of people that showed up. It was like, man, people around here care, which is awesome, especially when things are going well. When things aren't going well, it's not so great. But no, people care. Black Hills University Athletics and their student athletes to be successful. I'm excited for the first football game, to see my first football game this weekend and be a part of that and go from there.
Yeah, that was always my, whenever people ask me, like, oh, you moved from the East Coast and you got out to South Dakota, what's different? It's like, it's the community. And especially around athletics, I think they really embrace BH, embrace Yellow Jacket Athletics, and really care about where it's going and what it's doing. So now, of course, looking forward, what are you looking forward to here at Black Hills State as a member of the Yellow Jackets athletics community and the BHSU community as a whole? What are you looking forward to?
Again, getting to know the people, because the people are what make the university and the department what it is. Getting to know them, what they want to see, what they expect from the institution, from the department, and just becoming a part of the community. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. Obviously, I want to have success and I want to win as much as the next person, but I also want to do it the right way with the right student athletes. So meeting the people and working with them in order to make this the best we can.
Now, changing pace a little bit here, kind of with some philosophical questions, I guess. In your eyes, what value do athletics bring to a university?
Well, I think right, wrong, or indifferent, the society in which we live, it's the front porch to the university. It's what people pay attention to. An old faculty athletic rep that I used to work with used to say it's the only part of the university that has its own section in the newspaper, which, again, right, wrong, or indifferent, society in which we live, success, breeds success. Obviously, the basketball teams have had success. Football has had immense amount of success so far this year. Coach Bresky's doing an outstanding job. And the goal, like I said, is to bring every sport up to that level, qualifying for regional tournaments and national tournaments and things like that, because that's part of the student-athlete experience and part of what makes it enjoyable. Losing isn't fun. I mean, you're not going to win every game, unfortunately. Everybody wants to, but it's just not going to happen. But having success, not just on the court, on the field, but in the classroom, in the community, and all of that, I mean, just being a part of the community, and especially in a community like Spearfish, 12,000, 13,000 people. It's a big part of the community. It brings quite a bit of value to the university.
Absolutely. And one more hard-hitting question before we lighten up here. So kind of in your eyes, what is your philosophy and objectives in regard to student-athlete experience, role within the campus as a whole, relationship with the community off of campus? I guess in short, what kind of athletics director is stepping onto campus here at Black Hills State?
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about the student-athlete experience, because that, if they have a good experience, they'll tell their friends. It helps recruiting, not just for athletics, but overall. It brings brand recognition. It brings, student athletes, I mean, they're the key to the whole thing. They become alums. Hopefully they go out and make tons of money and give it back. It just, the student athletes have to have a good experience. Now, does that mean they get everything they want and don't get told no and things like that? No, of course not. Student athletes will be held to a standard, both in the classroom, on the field, character-wise, all those kinds of things. If we do right by student-athletes, it just makes all the difference in the world. It makes everybody's jobs so much easier. So that's the focus, is to give our student-athletes, an outstanding student-athlete experience, get them out of here with a degree, then also do everything we do with excellence. Again, excellence doesn't always equate to winning every game, but doing it the right way. When spectators come, they have a great experience in the venue. When concession stand and they're seeing our student athletes, that there's smiles on faces and all of that. It's not the most fun job in the world, but everything that we take on, that we have to take on, that we want to take on, that we're going to do it with a good attitude and be really good at it, whatever that is, whether it's, plunging the toilet at a press conference after a game. We're going to do it the right way and be excellent.
All right, now into a segment that we're going to do for most, if not all, episodes of Jacket Chats. Rapid fire questions. They're going to be quick hitting questions, shorter answers, kind of get to know you as a person as opposed to just what you do in the athletics department or for student athletes on the field. So first, some people know this, came up during your open forum, during the interview process. You weren't a collegiate athlete, but instead you were a member of the band during your undergrad. Isn't that right?
It is. I actually started college on a music scholarship, played the trumpet, was in the marching band, the pep band, was in some pit orchestras for musicals, things like that. So, but yeah, that's correct. And, being a sports fan and not necessarily being the tallest individual or the most athletic individual, it was a way to stay around athletics and be a part of it. And, it was when I was at Tulsa, it was during the Bill Self days and then the glory days of Tulsa basketball. And there's some Elite Eights there and things like that. And so it was a fun time to be a part of that at Tulsa.
Sure, sounds it. And now, as you know, game days can be long and eventful. So what do you do to start your day? What is your go-to breakfast on game days?
I'm a big omelet guy. I enjoy omelets loaded up with, ham, all the veggies, all those kinds of things. Throw some Cholula on there for a little kick. Yeah, 3-egg omelet, that's where it's at. And some chocolate milk.
That's right. What's your favorite moment or memory in your career as an athletics administrator?
Oof. There's been a lot of good ones. I would have to say during the 2015-16 academic year at LCU, it was a really went from low of lows to high of highs. 2015-16 was LCU's first year of postseason eligibility after transitioning from the NAI. And in the fall, a volleyball player, Mallory Maddox, and you can Google this if you want, but I'll never forget it. They're playing in a match in Midwestern State in Wichita Falls, Texas. Beginning of the match, she started having blurred vision, all these kinds of things. Long story short, started passing out, throwing up. Got her to the hospital in Wichita Falls. She was having a brain bleed through that. I wasn't sure she was going to make it. Got her airlifted, or actually, ironically, one of the best brain surgeons in the country, who's from Dallas, happened to be at the hospital that day doing some education of some sort with the staff there. So he was there, able to operate on her right there that night, ended up flying her to Dallas, long recovery, the whole 9 yards. And she ended up being okay. She's married, she's functioning, she's got all the things. She has some memory lapses and things like that. But, you go from thinking you're going to lose a student athlete to her being okay. She's written a book. You can, like I said, you can Google it. It's quite a story. So you go from that to, in 2016, 2015-16 in the spring, women's basketball team going 35-0 and winning the national championship in their first year of eligibility. So, I mean, that year, I think, encapsulated just a lot of emotions that year, from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs. And I would probably say that whole year, it was a wild year for sure.
That's truly incredible. That's an incredible story. And, that firsthand account, that sounds just breathtaking. So if you could have played a collegiate sport, what would have been?
Well, I think at the time, it would have been basketball. Now, as I look back on it, it probably would have been baseball. As I've become older and, I don't know, maybe baseball's an old person's game or what. But yeah, now I would have to say baseball. Back then, it probably would have been basketball.
You and I are in the same boat. We're baseball guys, it seems, so we'll get along just fine. So finally, what is one thing that most people do not know about you? Kind of a fun fact, for lack of a better term.
Well, you kind of stole it with your first question in this rapid fire segment, was that I started college on a music scholarship. But man, I don't know. I guess other than that, I would probably have to say I'm an only child. Is something that I think most people don't know, and I take that as a compliment that most people don't know that, because I guess that means I don't act like a stereotypical only child. But yeah, I'd probably have to say that.
Fantastic. Hey, Scott, once again, welcome to Black Hills State. Welcome to Spearfish, and we look forward to seeing what you can accomplish here with Yellow Jacket Athletics.
Well, I'm going to change that. It's not me. It's coaches and staff. It's certainly a team effort. But yeah, it's not what I can accomplish. It's what our coaches and staff and student athletes can accomplish.
Well, I think that sums it up all together right there. Thanks so much for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you.